Welcome to the 611 Films YouTube channel. We are back in 99. My name is David Groves, is one of your hosts. With me as always,
Neil McKay. What is going on?
What is happening? It's the summertime. Why not talk about the Summer of Sam?
Summer of Sam.
It's a Spike Lee joint, a movie I never saw until
last night. You just told me like 10 seconds ago that you just watched it last night. I saw it in the theaters when it came out, and I think I've seen it a couple times after, but I haven't seen it in a while. So I'm kind of going off, like I kind of looked at the plot on Wikipedia and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I'm going off of memory because it's fresh in your head, but it's probably been a decade since I've seen it.
I don't know if this movie got looking up stuff today, it was sort of like it was middling in the reviews and probably box office, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it did super well. It's definitely not, when you look at his resume, it's not top of the list as far as like, the things like, oh, if you're going to watch a Spike Lee movie, watch, but it does. I mean, it definitely goes into the themes of like, someone judging a book by its cover and kind of,
right.
Just kind of the hysteria of like, people kind of get swayed by,
I'll tell you
groups and opinion and.
Yeah, it definitely mimics a lot of that Do the Right Thing thematically.
Right. Yeah. It's
the hottest summer on record in New York. Obviously, if people don't know or haven't seen it, it's about the killer, 44 caliber killer. Did he have a different name than that?
No, the 44 caliber killer, and then he was the son of Sam.
Son of Sam.
And David Berkowitz is
was the actual killer.
And and I don't know. So my mother and like her family and my dad and they were all from New York City, so they lived through this, and it was just kind of fascinating to hear the story. Like it really was like a crazy summer. Everyone remembers the heat wave, and then this kind of. People were like paranoid. You and I are from Northern Virginia, where they had the sniper killer. You remember?
Yeah.
And that was like kind of. I was living
around the DC area.
Yeah, I was living in LA at the time, but I would talk to people from back home, and people were like, "Yeah, I'm like scared to go get gas and stuff because what if I get?" And
the big idea for that, just so people like they offshoots of different highways like 495, 66, like you were told like don't go to the gas stations by a major highway because they would actually shoot somebody and they could get away quickly.
They were picking off people from, and they found out there was like a guy hiding in a trunk and he had like stuck the gun out, and as the person would drive away. But that was like what New York was like in 77 or 78 and that like time. Where it was just like kind of people were going nuts. They were like, and it was such a media like circus with this guy writing letters. He was like the Zodiac. He's writing letters and stuff like that to the. Now, if you compare him to like Jeffrey Dahmer or like Ted Bundy or something like that, he was kind of like, you just go around and like shoot people. It wasn't like, I don't know, like twisted and like eating them or like torturing them.
Well, it was said in the movie, and there was a funny scene that was just so wacky and off. Like I was like, so they kill it like a dog is talking to him, and he says that the real thing is like a dog 1,000 years old had been telling him to kill. So they have a scene where a dog is in the apartment. I'm showing it right now.
Kill.
What, even for Spike Lee, this is a little like I can see Oliver
like
Stone doing this.
That was the one scene that was kind of like, what?
What?
That definitely takes you out of it a little bit because it's so like off the wall. They're like making the dog's mouth move with like CGI, and it's like, what the hell is happening?
Like, all right, okay. And for a movie that's playing so real, like I said, I can see like an Oliver Stone or something like Jim Jarmusch or something like that could work with the Coen brothers. But for Spike Lee to do that, I was like, it was a little, took me out of it a little bit. But I do think since I just seen it, I was like, yeah, I remember. Obviously, it felt very Scorsese, like it had Boogie, like it seemed like Spike Lee just saw Boogie Nights a year before because that came out in 97. It had this PTA thing kind of going with all the ensemble of characters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was very like kind of ensemble cast and
big soundtrack.
So yeah, I was gonna say like so the soundtrack was gonna be something I brought up. Like I love that soundtrack. Like I am not afraid to admit that I like some disco stuff, and that had some. I went out and got that soundtrack, and I was like, some of this stuff is good because it's not just like it's the Bee Gees or whatever. They had some stuff I was like, I've never heard of this song before. And it was like, This is cool. But so the thing what I was saying about David Berkowitz though is like if you compare him to like some of these more famous serial killers, like he wasn't that like sick and twisted. I mean, he was sick and twisted, but I mean, he wasn't like doing things that like you're like, oh my god, that's horrific. Like eating, like keeping bodies in the crawl space and eating body parts and stuff like that. But it was just the media frenzy of these letters and the craziness of it, and because it was New York, that made him such a bigger than you know.
Like well, if he stayed like in that area, you know, like most. I mean, I guess a Dahmer. You know, I know you've also been kind of like into the serial killer thing with that stuff and read a lot of that stuff. And you know, I don't know a ton about all those things. I didn't see the Netflix series with Dahmer, but I mean that like natural born killers is like they're on the road, they're moving around. That's where I feel like serial killers live, like on the road. But that's not really true. They stay close to home most of the time.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, it's just if you were to take like somebody like to me, I would if you swapped like say Ed Gein, or Ed Gein or however you say his name, who was like the inspiration for like Hannibal Lecter and Psycho and all that. And he was in like nowhere, Wisconsin or something. If you took him and put him in New York City in the 70s, and then you had like David Berkowitz like in some podunk town, it'd be like totally different. Like, you know what I mean? Like it would be like, oh my god. It was just interesting the amount of notoriety Berkowitz got as Son of Sam.
You know, it is a mashup of ensemble-ish kind of characters, and like you were saying, that feeling of we got to find somebody, or like it's about Vinny and Richie, John Leguizamo, Adrian Brody sort of in. I think they're in the Bronx, right, or Queens.
They're somewhere in New York, in the boroughs of New York City. But it's
very sexual. A lot more sexual than I thought.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. They got into that kind of the whole thing with like, oh, I can't do this with you because you're my, you know, fiance, so I can't do these like kinky things, and you know, they got into something. Like, we're like wholesome and Christian and all this other stuff, but he can go cheat on his, you know, wife or fiance or whatever with it. So they went into some of these things, and I really like the whole aspect of like the Adrian Brody character, like this guy, like, hey, they were friends and then he comes back, but he's different, and now you're like, oh, you know, friendships change, and do I trust this guy? And they go into a lot of things. Yeah, it was a very the Son of Sam was just kind of a backdrop. It was just kind of like the setting, basically. It wasn't really like a major plot. It was like about you know, how these people were like, you know, interacting.
Well, it sets up well at the very beginning with the actual news or columnist, the guy that says,
"My name is Jimmy Breslin. I'm a writer. I write about New York, the city of my birth, where I've lived and worked all my life. The city that I love and hate both equally.
There are 8 million stories here, and this is just one of them." So I like that it's sort of, it has that Boogie Nights feeling of ensemble.
He was
this is just a story that happened in New York.
Jimmy something or another. He was like a super famous like columnist. Like he was, I think he wrote for the New York Times.
Yeah, I'll show. I'll put.
He was like that. That was kind of like a cameo. Like Spike Lee knew what he was doing when he had him in there. Like that was like like anybody from New York like knew that guy. So having him do that in the movie was like a fun thing.
My issues with it was maybe there was too much going. Like you're trying to do the ensemble, but it's not really working as far as, you know, there's stuff with the cops, there's stuff with the mob, there's stuff with this person, that, and it just felt a little bit like there's a momentum with Scorsese and even with PTA when he does Magnolia and when he does Boogie Nights. This didn't feel that way, and it slowed the movie down for me. I don't know. I'm not saying it fell flat. I love I'll say this. I love Leguizamo's character. I love the acting in it. I think Adrian Brody. I think everybody was Mira Sorvino. The acting was stellar. Yeah. I thought they were all great in it.
I think we had a similar kind of thing with Girl Interrupted, where I kind of just remember like these major, like the heart of the story, and then you were kind of you were mentioning like the Vanessa Redgrave thing, and I was like, oh yeah, like I kind of forgot about. I just remember this movie, like John Leguizamo and Mira Sorvino, and then John Leguizamo and his friends and Adrian Brody coming back into town, and that's what I remember. I don't remember like stuff with the cops and the mob, so it's just like maybe I just like put that out of my mind or something. I don't know, but
yeah, well, it's like, and maybe I'm saying the same thing I might have said with Girl Interrupted, even, because I was going to mention like the ending, the mob mentality and that thematic of the heat of the summer. The guys are going out to find Richie, the Adrian Brody character. They're convinced that he's actually the son of Sam, and we need to go get him. And they, Vinny's doing a lot of drugs. Mira Sorvino's left him, and they take him out, and I thought they were going to kill him actually, but. They start beating the shit out of him, and then, his stepdad and people kind of save him. But that was the thing. It's sort of like you see Vinny, you see Leguizamo looking at him, is like, sorry. And then it ends. And I'm like, not that I need a full resolution here, but I'm like, what? Oh, is that it for these characters? Like, no epilogue, no nothing? And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's something that was okay to have. But I don't know. It left me pondering, like, I guess that's how it goes. Or that's the slice of life of the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of see that. But I also was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I guess to me, the point was like kind of, he splits up with Mira Sorvino, and then, he has this old friend come back into town, and then he's like he's convinced that he's the serial killer. And it's just like, man, people change and things change, and like people kind of come in and out of your life, and just shit happens, And but
I did like, I guess it's the change that if you're looking for that thematic change, that arc or whatever, it is the Vinny becoming sort of the bad guy. I mean, he's not very likable, cheating on his wife in the very first scene of the whole movie, but then sort of like having that. But he had Richie's back, like at the diner. There's the diner scene where the guy's trying to kick him out, and he's sticking up for him. And then at the end of the day, he's like, let's go get him.
He was swayed by the rest of the group. Like, this guy's no longer your friend. He's a serial killer. And all because what? He's like,
because he has a mohawk.
Yeah. I mean, it's this kind of thing, so, but again, I mean, these are kind of like the themes that like Spike Lee does. So it's like, it's apropos for like, a Spike Lee movie. And I don't know. And it's when you mentioned like the serial killer stuff too, like I was kind of fascinated by that, like in the 90s and stuff. And now I'm just sort of like, whatever. But everybody else is like, now you do have like the Netflix shows, and everybody's got serial killer shows. Yeah. But this was kind of like, I mean, not like it was the first time anyone had done a movie on serial killers, but like this wasn't like as prevalent as it is now, where you turn on a streaming service and there's like something about a serial killer. Like this wasn't, this was different. Like, I mean, like, oh wow, we're gonna do a movie about the son of Sam. Like that was kind of cool. Like, even though it wasn't really about the son of Sam.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching this episode of Back in 9. If you liked it, give it a like. Might as well hit subscribe, comment.
Yeah.
Do that too.
Boom, boom.
We will see you again on the next episode of Back in 99. Later.